You're right on time, my friends. You're right on time. So I want to welcome you to our October Meyerland Area Democrats meeting, and we have such a distinguished guest with us tonight, United States Senator Vory Booker, and we're so privileged to have him. So Senator Booker, I was going to give him a quick get out the vote update.
Yes.
We bring you, is that right? Just hang out right here with us? Oh, we don't even have a... We're Democrats. We know how to improvise, right? Okay, don't do that. Okay, so I want to welcome all of y'all tonight. Over 200 registered on a Sunday night to come out here. That's a big sign for us here in Texas. So we have, as you saw in my email earlier this week, the whole point of this thing tonight is to do something, like Michelle Obama told us at the convention, to do something. This is not the time for any of us to flake out or wig out about polls or anything like that. We are here to do something. So we have in the back there, if you want to do postcards, I got postcards. You want to do some doors in precincts we need to turn out higher to win this election in Harris County. They're right there at the table ready for you to pick up. We've got all that stuff back there for you to do. So I urge you to do something tonight and help us with that. We have Senator Allred's team here as well. You want to be plugged into their campaign for phone bank, whatever. Texas, man, we're in it to win it. And I wanted to say thank you. And you know, I say this quite often, but I'm going to repeat it again. If you're new to Meyerland Area Democrats, we have the highest turnout precincts in the entire state of Texas. So we are number one for turnout. We have flipped, in 2018, Congresswoman Lizzie Fletcher, we flipped that rate. And then we did Grant Johnson, right, our home state rep in 2020 with Democratic. So this is a big and important organization, Senator. The work we have done here has changed the course, I believe, of the history of our country. If you think about it, the work we have had to do these years. But now our most even important work is ahead of us, okay? Our most important work is ahead of us. And I was thinking about this too today. So, I've been thinking, ever since I got the notice that we were going to have a senator here, I was thinking of some things. So, here's something. I was thinking about Senator Cruz here, you know. I know. Here's the thing with this guy. You know, he's just weird on stuff. This guy has voted to put in all 3 court justices, right, to prevent women from having their own bodily autonomy, and not just women. People who want to marry who they want to love, they're after all that. And I thought too I have a little story for you, if you haven't heard it yet, but I'm going to tell it. So, many of you have been asking me, a year ago, I was at the 10-9 service a year ago, right after this tragedy happened at our synagogue down the street. And it was on the front page of the Houston Chronicle, right, a photo with me, and Ted Cruz sat next to me at the event. He had a seat next to me. And everybody's been asking me about this photo for a year, so let's tell some truth, shall we? He sat next to me, I was polite. I'm polite. And he said, well, what can we do? What can we do for you, for your community in this tragedy? I said 2 things. I said, 1, you're on the committee for our ambassadors. We had no ambassadors appointed yet or confirmed yet for that region. And it had been in the news, not even one to Israel. With a war about to begin, I said, can you get those done? I said, can you get the aid package done for Israel and the people in Gaza? Can you get that done? He said, sure, no problem, I believe, like that. Months and months later go by. And what does this guy do? He voted no to confirm the ambassadors, and he voted no on the aid package. No. He voted no. This was in a house of God he made this promise, and I have an issue with that. A house of God with 2,000 heartbroken people. And he made this commitment, and he did not fulfill it to our community. And for that reason alone, he should be fired, not to mention the winter freeze and all this other stuff too. Who leaves his people with 700 dead in the state of Texas and goes to freaking Cancun. So it's time to fire his sorry ass. Now, we're gonna... let me introduce to you the fabulous Senator Vory Booker, who I've had the privilege to meet on several occasions. We've taken a selfie on my phone before, the same phone Joe Biden took his on, so we're in good company. It's my good luck phone. Good luck phone. So, a fabulous man. This is not just a U.S. Senator, this is a leader. Cory, you're a leader to all of us in this country. He cares about people who don't have a voice in the arena. And Cory has spent his life to do this. When you were a mayor in the U.S. Senate, he talks about things people don't always feel comfortable talking about, poverty in this country, race in this country, whatever it is. He's one of the guys that always takes it up for us. Voting rights, we have State Representative Ron Reynolds in the House, and State Rep would know, he knows, when you went up to Austin, when you went up to D.C., right, for those 38 days, and who did you go to? This man right here. So, when we were on that, to break that quorum for our voting rights, that's why this race is so key. We take this race, it's game over, right? It's game over. We take this race, we can hold on to the Senate, so our new president, the first woman ever, right? Kamala Harris, get her elected, right? And we can do this. We can do this. We can flip the state. I know we've been through a lot here, and every cycle, you know, we're the true believers, Cory, in this mission. It's been 34 years to do this, but we've gotten so close. Look how close we got in 2018, man. 200,000 votes. Do you know how many 3 million plus new voters in the state since then? There's a reason Ted Cruz has gone so negative in his ads. It's all negative. There's nothing positive. I mean, what is he going to run on? Just negative stuff to scare people. So your job is not only to help pick up some lit in the back and get to work, but your job is to call, not text, call 10 of your friends. See text, look how many texts you just got in 1 hour. It's all fundraising. You got to call 10 friends, and you got to have a talk about Kamala, about Colin Allred. And the fabulous thing about Colin Allred that I so love is this. He is a true leader. He's a true leader. Why is he a true leader? Well, think about this. This is a guy who, a couple of things. One is he gave up his congressional seat. Who gives up power? I can think of another gentleman who gave up power. Who gives up power willingly for the greater good? He gave up a seat. He could have been in Congress sailing for another 20, 30 years, been a congressman, gotten his seat. But he didn't, because he saw what was going on here in Texas and felt Ted Cruz needed to be strongly challenged on what he has done. That is, my friends, leadership right there. And not only that, Colin Allred, he was an NFL player. He had an injury. He could have cashed out. He could have gone wherever, right? But he didn't. What did he do? He became an attorney, civil rights attorney, and fought for people who had no voice. So that's really important when you look at in leadership in an individual. When you look at Colin Allred, when you talk to your friends, this is who this man is. Right? That's who Colin Allred is. And it's time we turn the page on all this. It's time we get a new chapter in this country, and we not only elect Colin Allred, we elect our new president and turn the page and move forward for our daughters, for our nieces, for all of the women in our lives, just for everyone. We have to do this. So without further ado, I want to introduce you on up to this lovely podium, Senator Booker. So thank you so much for coming out here tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So look, I am on like a 10-state tour. I'm going to Arizona, to Nevada, to Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin, but I found it very, very important to be here in Texas as well. I am here for 2 reasons. The first is that Colin Allred asked me to come. And I think it's a great sacrifice for me, because here I am in the Senate, big bald guy, I'm the football player, I'm the guy with the gray haircut, and Colin here, he's younger than me, more handsome. I played Stanford football, he played in the pros, for crying out loud. So I'm putting all my jealousy and ego aside, because I desperately want him to be my colleague. And it's right. this one Senate seat here can turn the tide, not just in the United States Senate. Understand this, if we win and get Kamala Harris as President of the United States, which I believe we can make happen, if she does not have the United States Senate, first of all, remember what happened to the judges when Donald Trump was there. Remember even when Obama was there, but he didn't have the Senate. What did they do when the Supreme Court opening was there and Merrick Garland was put up? They didn't even hold a hearing. So remember, the Senate, they could shut down in so many ways just the regular order of governance, which is putting people on the federal benches. Our founders put that out there, but when Obama was there and didn't have the Senate, they slowed that process down. That gave Donald Trump the opportunity to make historic appointments to the court because they denied them to Barack Obama. Number two is she's going to have to put a cabinet in place. And just her ability to get a cabinet secure quickly in really important positions, from Secretary of State to making sure that we have Secretary of Treasury there, Labor, all of those positions can be slowed down and ground to a halt as well. Most of our recent presidents have gotten into office, from Obama to Trump to Biden, have had the Senate and the House of their own party and have had all of their signature legislation done. I didn't agree with Donald Trump's big tax plan that gave massive tax cuts to the wealthiest corporations and individuals that blew trillions of dollars of holes in our budget, but he had the Senate and the House and was able to do his signature bill. Obama, the same thing. It was the Affordable Care Act that Trump would later try to tear down. Gosh, when Biden had the House and the Senate, we've had the most historic, since LBJ had the most historic bills passed. We had the Infrastructure Act, the CHIPS Act. We had bills that deal with climate change, bills that expand health care, bills to drive down prescription drug costs, extraordinary accomplishments. But in this time where unfortunately tribalism is taking hold of sanity, if Kamala Harris does not have the Senate, it will be a really, really tough situation. And so I hate to tell you this, I don't want to put the pressure on you, but the world in so many ways is going to turn on what you all do in this race. And so when Colin called up, I said, Colin, you are one of the more extraordinary leaders I've ever met in my life. This guy has dedicated his life to serving others. And he's not a firebrand left-right guy. He's like, how do I move America forward? How do I bring people together? How do I heal? How do I inspire us and our moral imagination? He is somebody that if he is a United States Senator, I promise you, he won't just make Texas proud. I think he's going to be the next generational leader that we need to really help to get our nation to come together and again do things that previous generations have thought were impossible. Now, I said that I came here for Colin, but I want to confess to you. I really, honestly, came because he called me to come, but I came for you. I want you all to know that the truth of the matter in our country is that all change in America has not been made because of who's the president or who's the Senate. It's really because of who the people are. We mistake history sometimes. We think that, it was the Senate that passed suffrage. I promise you that it wasn't we have suffrage right now for women, not because a bunch of men on the Senate floor came and said, hey fellas, come together, okay. Let's give women the right to vote. Okay, ready, break. That's not how it happened. We don't have the 1964 Civil Rights Act or the 1965 Voting Rights Act because Strom Thurmond came to the Senate floor and said, y'all, I've seen the light. Let those Negro people vote. That's not how it happened. It happened because people in the communities around this country, often small groups of people coming together, deciding that we are going to be the change. Alice Paul, this young woman from New Jersey, decides that the national suffrage movement needs more of an oomph, and she did something that never was done before. She came in front of the White House and held protests. Nobody had ever protested in front of the White House, and all she did was take Woodrow Wilson's own words about freedom and justice, held them up on signs. They called it the silent protest. So many counter-protesters came to jeer these women. How dare you stand in silent protest in front of the White House in a wartime president? World War I was going on. They jeered her so bad that they arrested the women for what everybody else was doing, which was blocking, obstructing public passage, put her in jail. Before Gandhi, she was doing hunger strikes. They force-fed her with tubes in violent fashion, and finally some reporter wrote about it, and it so horrified the American public, it shifted public opinion, and the President of the United States came out from the White House and joined them and joined suffrage. Small groups of people who used to meet in church basements to plot the Civil Rights Movement. Small groups of people actually plotted the greatest infrastructure project this nation has ever known. And I'm not talking about the Transcontinental Railroad. I'm talking about the Underground Railroad. Groups like this, folks, black and white, Christian and Jewish, that got together all along from the South to Canada and said, we are going to bring freedom to this nation and to her people. I had this incredible granddad from Louisiana, him and my grandma. They moved to Michigan to get jobs on the assembly lines in Detroit. And my grandfather, in the Great Depression, so many blacks were moving from the South up to opportunities in industrial North, and my grandfather and my grandmother just did everything. They opened up pool halls, they opened up a laundromat, they opened up a gas station, and the statute of limitations is up now, so I can confess to you, they ran numbers. Before the lottery went legit. These were incredible folks. And what my grandparents would tell me is just incredible stories of always coming together in their small community to do big things. They too, even back then in the 30s and 40s, used to help black families who crossed some social border were all that escape to Canada because of the terrorism that was going on in the South. But the thing my grandfather bragged the most about, and my grandma, was the fact that they were able to flip 14 districts in Detroit from Republican to Democrat. Because black folks back in those days, in the Depression, black folks back in those days were Republicans. The old saying was, turn Lincoln's picture to the wall, we're going with FDR. And he went with FDR not because he liked the donkey over the elephant, he didn't care about that. He did because he said, we're Democrats. The party of Social Security, the party of Medicare, the party of union rights, the party of women's rights, the party of immigrants' rights, the party of civil rights, the party of we, not the party of me. My grandfather said, we are the party, not the people we elect, but the people who are on the ground, knocking on doors, talking to people, and he was so proud that his city shifted dramatically to support this guy named FDR. That's who we all are. All of us, what we do in a nation right now where our elections are being decided by the narrowest of margins. You all know this. You some state legislatures here with beautiful bald heads, by the way. You being calm, man. You all know in your state there's the election being decided by just hundreds of votes. I had a chance to introduce Hillary Clinton the other day in Newark, New Jersey, kicking off her book tour. We were talking about 77,000 votes through 3 states were decided a presidential election. In Wisconsin, it was more than 1 vote per voting machine was the determining factor. 1 vote per voting machine decided whether Wisconsin went one way or the other. We have to realize right now everything is in our hands. What we do matters. I ran for my first office in 1998. I had this beautiful, lush afro. Love it! And then in 2002, I ran for mayor of the city of Newark. And it was became an Oscar-nominated documentary called Street Fight. But then it went on to lose in the Oscars to a movie called March of the Dagnap Penguins. That was the title, March of the Dagnap Penguins. But during that election, I was visiting my granddad. And my granddad has his body racked with cancer. Dementia was setting in, and my granddad, I said goodbye to him. He didn't know this would be the last time I was saying. And he looks at me and he goes, Granddad, I'm leaving, I love you. And he goes, well, I love you, but I love your children and your grandchildren. And I thought that he must have been talking about my uncle. Because my uncle has children and grandchildren. And I thought, okay, he mentioned he didn't recognize me, that's okay. And I went to rush back to my election. And here I was, 18th Avenue, Newark, New Jersey, and I get the call that I should call my grandmother. I didn't do what I was told. I wept into my dashboard. My hero, the man that used to take me cross country and all his grandchildren in a beat up green Winnebago, they called it Green Dream. Talked about the ideals of this nation and how we, the people, are the ones that have made this democracy succeed. Here he was gone, and I was crying into my dashboard until I get this unbelievable feeling of warmth. Because I remember his last words. This guy named Neil deGrasse Tyson, he's an astrophysicist, and I got to be at the Apollo Theater in Harlem in a podcast with him, and he's a fierce atheist. I'm a man of faith. We bonded over what he told me. He said, Corey, when you see the sun, and in any day, you're actually not seeing the sun where it is. Because it takes 8 minutes for light to travel from the sun here. So you're really seeing the sun where it was. And he goes, now I want to think about stars. Corey. Stars are hundreds of millions of light years away. And the light, that's how long it takes to travel, hundreds of millions of years until that light gets here and we're seeing them. Many of those stars are dead and gone, millions of years ago. But the light and the energy and the warmth those stars gave out while they were alive goes on in perpetuity. My grandfather's unborn great-grandchildren will feel his warmth because of what he did while he burned brightly alive. We are bathing in the warmth of our ancestors now who marched for us and fought for us and struggled for us. And now it's our turn to be brilliant, to shine, to give the best measure of our devotion to this country. You all may not get my point, so I'm going to have to double down. This is when my chief of staff of the Veronica Garage, she's like, Corey, you got a pot? You got one of these Zooms that starts fundraisers. And she's like, you're going to be late because you're going to tell 2 stories. And I'm like, sorry, she's from Texas, my chief of staff. For New Jersey, looks like you're struggling here, man. He saw me about to cry. He's like, you need some prayer, man? You need some prayer? And at that moment, a staffer runs over to us, excuse me, senators, with some urgency, and says, the presiding officer would like to see the two of you. And I'm like, okay, because I have this reflexive, I grew up in a sort of female-dominated household, and when a woman calls me, my first instinct is just to go. and so we're not in the same way, we both just go, because the presiding officer sitting on high in the Senate is none other than the Vice President of the United States, Colin Allred. Those of you who watch C-SPAN, the 17 Americans watch C-SPAN, will know this weird rule in the Senate. You cannot historic day too, because this might be the first time 3 black people have ever got together on Sen Vory. And she goes, fellas, this is such an important day. And you get to be on the board and witness this. And she goes, you guys should write a letter to a young girl and tell them what it was like to be in this historic moment. And we're both affected by that. But then she opens up at the desk, she opens up the Bible, and there was her briefing documents and her schedule, but at the back of it, there was these 2 pieces of stationery, her stationery. And she pulls them out, and I immediately see the big embossed vice presidential seal and her name across the top, Kamala Harris. And she goes, fellas, I think that you should write a letter to a little girl using my stationery. And she hands it to us. And Warnock puts his hand on me and says, don't you cry. Now, let me tell you something about your senators. Raphael Warnock is a disciplined, dutiful man who goes right to his official Senate desk and writes this letter to his 5-year-old daughter. And it is a beautiful, gorgeous letter. If he comes to Texas, ask him about his letter. Gorgeous! I am a procrastinator! Because first of all, I'm what J.D. Vance was talking about with his childless cat people. I think we're perfect. That's the way we are. So I don't have an immediate little girl that pops to my mind. And so this 100th senator comes in, and we all vote. We send Katanji around Jackson to rise for the land. And I still don't write my letter that day. A week passes, and I still haven't written my letter. 2 weeks pass. And then one day I'm in my bed. And everyone has had this moment where you set your alarm, but you wake up a few moments before your alarm goes off. And you're lying there in your bed, and you have these profound thoughts. Colin Harris asked me to write my letter. And she gave me a literal piece of paper to do it on. But I suddenly realized the larger calling that Colin Harris asked of me. And I think he's asking every one of us is to write our letter like our ancestors did. Like my grandfather and grandmother did. Like your grandparents and great-grandparents did. And you know this. Your great-grandparents and grandparents, they didn't write their letters always in ink. Many of them wrote them in sweat. Many of them wrote them in tears. So many Holocaust survivors, those who made it through this middle passage, those who came here with poverty, with nothing, many of them wrote their letters. Distant beaches, the blood. Kamala said, it's your turn now. You're on history stage for such a brief moment before your light goes out. Write your letter. Not by what you say, but by what you do. Write your letter, because faith without works is dead. Write your letter. Because who you are speaks so loudly people can't hear what you say. Write your letter with how you work and how you struggle, how you organize, how you make phone calls. Write your letter, and in this moment of history where the entire nation will tip one way or the other on the most narrow amounts of people, what you write will make a difference. And what will your letter say? Will it say that I showed up, I stood up, I spoke up, I rose up and wrote my letter, and I made it a letter about democracy continuing. I made it a letter about the peaceful transfer of power. I made it a letter about my children and public education. I wrote a letter about bodily autonomy and the freedom to make your own medical decisions. I wrote my letter with heart and soul and we together collectively, right here in Texas, write our letter with love. I promise you, we can change the world.
Thank you, Senator, for your comments and speech and coming all the way to us in Houston, Texas tonight. This is where change happens. And we're going to write that letter. We're going to do it and deliver us Senate to our new President, Kamala Harris, this November. So appreciate y'all coming, and our friend Senator Booker has agreed to do some photos.
Tell Veronica pulls me away.
Tell Veronica pulls away. He's clear. You're clear? Yes, totally clear. We can do them right here. Line them up.
All right.
Like
And then the local news they want.
Oh, she wants to talk to you too.
Should we do that first? Gavel first, yes. Okay.
So I want to a couple quick last minute business here. So Joni Weiner here tomorrow. You want to take it?
Yeah. Okay, let's write our letters tomorrow. Be at Bonnie's tomorrow at 1 o'clock or 6 o'clock to write your letter to make a difference. We will be doing postcards to low-frequency voters to get them out. So let's come. I'm reminding you tomorrow, 1 o'clock, 6 o'clock at Bonnie's.
If you're here for a selfie, the line starts right here.
The line starts right here. So you line up like this. I'm going to do so. And we will see you very soon. Make sure to pick up some stuff in the back, some Berlin, some postcards. And thank you for coming. So if you want to get a picture, get in this line. All right. See you soon.